Welcome, welcome, your backup plan tribe to another awesome show. I'm so happy to have you here today. We're a bit early, but that's okay. By the time we get this party started, we'll be on time. I'm so excited to have a wonderful doctor on our show today to talk to us about the inside scoop about cancer. And so I know you guys are all going to really enjoy it, called Can You Beat Stage 4 Cancer? Um, can you? Can you? That's the big question of today. So if you are new here, welcome. I'm so happy to have you guys here today, our listeners. Welcome your backup plan tribe to a whole new show, Talking Taboo with Tina, brought to you by your backup plan app. I am an emergency preparedness coach, a best-selling author of In the Blink of an Eye. Yes, remember Jeannie? It's that quick. Things happen that quickly. I am an app developer of your backup plan app. I'm located here in beautiful Vancouver, BC. I'd like to thank all of you, welcome all of you. If you are new, click on that subscribe button down here in the corner, press on subscribe and the bell so you get notified of any upcoming videos for you to watch. I'd like to thank our American and our Canadian listeners, our top two. I love to have each and every one of you here, of course. And our third top is our German listeners. And I'd like to welcome my German listeners. Meine deutsche Freunde sind in unserem Podcast willkommen. Wenn Sie Kommentare haben, können Sie gern Fragen stellen. Also danke für deine Freundschaft und danke für zu hören, meine deutsche Freunde. So thank you again. Whatever might be next, Italy and Ireland, all the eyes, and India are all struggling for the fourth spot. So thank you guys. Thank you for all listening. Our special guest today is Dr. Isabelle Amigues, and she comes to us from Denver, Colorado today. I am so happy to have her here today. We talk about real life here. Real life stories. We focus on real conversations with our listeners from our guest's journey, from a life-changing event in their life. There's just too many to mention, isn't there? There's too many stories. I never run out of stories, unfortunately. I'd like to say that I do, but I don't. What is your backup plan app? People say to me, Tina, what the heck is it anyways? Well, it's an app that puts your life all into one place. So in case of any unpredictable circumstance, while taking that painful aftermath out of that tragedy. So what does that mean? That means that you can be prepared, you can have peace of mind, you can feel like you are ready for anything. If you had a wildfire in your home, you have a grab-and-go bag, you've taken your photos, you have all of your documents that you need to grab, you can grab your pets, you can grab your jacket, and you're set to go and throw it into your vehicle and drive. But if you're not prepared, you may have difficulties with insurance after, you may have difficulties with claims, you may have difficulties in later just where the heck are my documents? Where are my folders? Where is my stuff? Where's my jewelry? What are things cost? What did it look like? How old was it? All of that stuff you don't have to worry about because you have your photos done. And we guide you through the process of each step, and you can take your time and do it at your pace and really learn why you have to have something. Perhaps you might want to catch some interviews that I do with insurance advisors, with attorneys and lawyers, and really find out the why. I want to give everybody some empowerment to know why they need to do it so that they can do it and get it done. So anyways, I'm very excited about our show today. Expect the unexpected, because it won't happen to me, is going to be eliminated from our vocabulary today, because we are going to be prepared. And What a best. So find a person here who struggled through this journey but has such a positive outlook and that she's beat it. And I am so excited to bring her on. Let's bring her on right now. Here she is, Dr. Isabelle. I'm so happy to have you on our show today. I put a little quote on our show today called, "I always look on the positive side. In a weird way, just thought of it as another adventure. Not for a single second did it go through my head that I was going to die," by Carolyn Monk. And I somehow felt that's what you would say if I asked you.
Yeah. I mean, maybe a fraction of a second. And thanks for having me, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, there was this hope that was there was hope the whole time. There was hope. Um, and you realize that mortality is much closer to you than anyone else, or that that's that fraction of moment where someone tells you you have stage 4. You realize that you're much closer to mortality than the fraction of second before.
Yeah.
You're not. You're just, it's the same. It's just more obvious. But it's true. I think I wasn't. I saw it as a huge experience that I had to learn from. I didn't. I think I got very lucky that I met someone that told me to see my cancer as a friend. So I never thought of it as I'm gonna beat this. I thought of it as what can I learn from this. And if I learn enough, then maybe they don't need to stay.
Yeah. That's true, isn't it? Um, so I just wanted to give a little bit of you trained in France, in
Yeah.
Paris,
Yes.
and then you went to Columbia University in New York City. You're
Yes.
based in Denver and you see patients there. And I do have your description and information down below for our listeners. So you became a full-time researcher at age 40 in this crisis. Was that kind of paired together? Was that on purpose?
So it's not that I became. I was trying very hard to become because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and so yeah. So it's very interesting. Maybe 3 months before my 40th birthday, I started feeling very sad, uh, and very worn down, and very like I just had this moment of, not this moment, this like several months of, what am I doing here? This is not what I want to do. And I had thought until that time that I wanted to become a full-time researcher. I had not yet gotten it, and I had not been able to get to there. But that's really like my ego wanted that. I wanted to become a researcher so that I would have my names on papers and my names on studies, and it was all ego driven. And then at 2 weeks after my birthday, I basically like found this huge mass, and that's, it's actually very interesting. It was the deliverance of this horrible time that I had been. So I was so sad before, and the moment I got diagnosed with cancer, I actually learned how to love myself, how to look at things around me in a much better way. So yeah, you talk a lot about preparedness. I was not prepared for this at all, but in a way, it's almost everything that had happened had sort of prepared me for this deliverance, right? Like, and so
Yeah.
then you're like, oh, okay, well, let's figure out why I'm here. Like, do I really want to live? I mean, that was the first question. Like, I kept thinking, do I want to live or not, or do I want to go? Do I want to go? And is this?
That's a strange phenomenon actually anyways, isn't it? Just to have that thought.
Yeah, I think it's because I was so sad. I was so miserable. My kids were 3 years old, so I have twins, and at the time they were 3 years old, and I had very little connections with them, and it probably came from the fact that um,
Were you
I
working a lot? Is that why you
Yeah,
stayed?
no, I loved working. It was that I had them very preemie, so I was feeling very guilty to have them preemie. And then twins are very hard, and I felt very guilty of not wanting to be with them all of the time.
Mm.
I felt extremely guilty, and so I was sort of consumed by this guilt of being a bad mom because I didn't want to be with my kids all of the time. Um, yeah, it was very painful. And so this cancer was sort of telling me, okay, you want to live, you want to go, like, do you want to go? Like, you have this option if you want to. And Yeah, it was a very deep journey inside of me. I did a ton of meditation, a ton of visualization. I discovered visualization then, actually. And it came what I was like recovering from chemo. But yeah, no, there was something very almost mystical, like
Yeah.
one day you're depressed and you're feeling like your life is not going anywhere, and the next day you're like, well, no, I have a goal now. I need to figure out if I want to live or if I want to go. And that was really the goal. It wasn't even, I mean, of course I wanted to, of course, and especially as a physician, like, I wanted the cancer to go.
Yeah.
um, but it's very interesting. As a physician, I'd always seen cancer, like disease in general, as enemies. Like, it was always like, oh, we're going to beat this, we're going to, and I would
Yeah.
explain, I'm a rheumatologist, so I would explain the immune system as the army. So I would explain the B cells are like the diplomatic way, the T cells are, the army with different, body of the army. And I would explain this to patients. And it's very interesting. The moment I had cancer, and the moment, I mean, I got diagnosed with cancer, and the moment I had this discussion with this, not a medical doctor, but she was, a naturopath in France, and I saw her once, and she was like, "Don't see this cancer as your enemy." And I was taken aback because I was like, "Wait, that's what I do. That's my
Yeah.
job." And suddenly I'm like, hold on, like, instead of using my energy to fight this, let's use my energy to figure out what I want and what I need. And yes, of course, I will, go for treatment. And of course, I will do all of the things that I need to do. And it's interesting. Like, I think some people were like, are you in denial? But I was not in denial. And
You just chose to look at it in a different
yeah,
aspect.
it is a mind shift. And it's very interesting. You talk a lot about preparedness, and I think that that's so important because being prepared allows us to not focus on the
The
terrible
bad.
outcome, right? So yeah, exactly. If you're prepared for death, then you're like, okay, fine, that's a possibility, right? And so you're like, okay, well, that's a possibility, and not that I want this, I don't.
Yeah.
But or I wanted the latest possible, but at the same time, the fact that it was a possibility made me like come to terms with, well, yeah, I'm mortal, I may die of this, and now where am I gonna put my energy in? Am I gonna put my energy in not looking at this, or am I gonna put my energy in, since I've acknowledged the fact that this is a possibility, just moving forward? Like, what can I learn from this? How do I treat myself? What do I need to get better? What do I need to feel good? Like during chemo, what
Yeah.
makes me feel better? And I learned a ton of things, and we can definitely go into those details if you want to, but it was definitely the acknowledgement that this is a possibility. I may die. And now, like, now that I have acknowledged this, now that I've put my things in orders, then yeah, then let's live, right? Like, okay,
Yeah.
I acknowledge this, now I can live.
And it's funny because we're talking about preparation, but the app, what I talk about is for when you do live too,
Mhm.
because you can have other things happen to you. Like you can lose your wallet or lose your passport, or, there's things if you're in a coma, or if you're recovering from an accident, or anything, or a heart attack, or COVID for that matter. Um, natural disasters, rebuilding your home from a hurricane or whatever it might be. But did you find the cancer yourself?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
and how
So,
did that feel when you found it?
oh, it was, earth shattering. Um,
Is it even for a doctor, it must be worse because then you know much more than the regular person. So, you're
yeah,
thinking all of these things,
yeah,
just because we do that.
yeah.
Like,
So the first thought was like, wow, this is big. It was big. It was big because I saw it and I was like, this should not be here. And the second thought was, this is too big to be cancer, because if this is cancer, then I'm in a really bad place. And so I was like, oh, I had all of those other differential diagnoses. I had one where I was like, oh, it's going to be sarcoidosis. It's going to be okay. Again,
because it could be just a tumor, right? It could be a
yeah, that's what I was hoping for. In
yeah.
the back of my mind, I was like, yeah.
But
Uh,
your mom, it's in your family, right? So
so yeah, it is in my family. My mom had it, but pretty like much later. So she had it at what, 51 or 52. And it was actually interesting because I had seen a nurse practitioner gynecologist just for my regular pap smear, and she had done a breast exam. It was in November, just before. And so I thought, she did a breast exam, and we had talked about getting an MRI because I was getting into my 40s. But at the time, it was not recommended. And at the time, we did not know that my mom had, it would have been recommended only if my mom had been having a cancer less than 50 years old. And so that was not the case. So I didn't do an MRI or a mammography or anything, right? Sorry, so what would have been recommended is a mammography at that point.
yeah.
But I didn't do that. And I felt like, why should I worry? And so that's sort of what I thought. I was like, oh, maybe this is related to the cycle. And I was like, oh, this is really, really hard. This is probably a cancer. But I mean, I didn't want to see that. I did not want to acknowledge it. I think, in a way, I acknowledged it only once I was in the oncologist.
And
Uh,
they told you.
yeah, they had told me before. I mean, they had told me in the ultrasound room, right? And you have all the signs. You're like, oh, I know this is not good.
Yeah.
Um,
And do you think it grew from that November then, like that fast?
Well, this is a type of diagnosis. Like it's a HER2 positive, so it's extremely aggressive, but it also makes it much more responsive to treatment, which is why my message is always be hopeful, right? There's such a difference in treatment nowadays; it's just incredible. But yeah, so it's very aggressive. I mean, at least mine was very aggressive, and I don't know. I do not know if there was something in November or not. I do not know. I mean, you would imagine that, it was not even 6 months prior, that there was probably something, at least a little something.
Yeah.
But who knows? Who knows? And the truth is that, you cannot rewrite the history. And
But if you were to do things again, you would have gotten a mammogram at that point. If you were to say, if I could turn time back, so that listeners, it's important to be checked a lot so that you
yeah,
stay on top of it.
yeah. It's a very good question because I've learned so much from the process and it made me who I am. Not the cancer, the experience made me who I am today. And I don't like the ifs. You know, I just think, of course, like, so as a physician, I,
Yeah.
and now we recommend mammogram starting 40. So I was in that moment. As a physician, I recommend mammogram to every single woman that is over 40, whether or not they have a history, a family
Right.
history. So that's number one, right? And so, yeah, it's
And to
hard.
check and to
And,
keep checking.
well, checking, I
Can
don't
be
check.
hidden, right? I guess can be hidden.
Yeah, that's the problem, and that's why it's recommended to do a mammogram. Is that checking actually doesn't really help that much. because you can either create stress on you because you're like feeling little lumps and it's actually nothing, or you can miss it. And in my case, for example, I was like, oh, I'm reassured, I don't have to do my breast exam. In general, I feel like if people know how to do it, it's great to do it.
Right.
But I'll be honest, I don't do it myself. I'm too afraid. I'm too afraid. I have, one breast left, and I don't do it. I asked my partner to do it, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just scared. I'm too scared of finding something, and I do mammogram and MRI now, on a regular basis. So I feel like pretty good on that. But yeah, it takes courage to look. It takes
It
courage
does.
to look, and but at
It's
the same
easier to not know,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's easier to not know.
For sure,
It's
for
like
sure.
it won't hurt you and you don't have to stress out when you do find something. So it's easier to not know.
Yeah, no, that's but it's true. I mean, it's. I do not know that checking would have made such a difference because I had been checked, a couple of, several months ago, like prior.
Yeah.
Um, would it have changed like stage 2 or stage 3 versus stage 4? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And the outcome would be, different. I would not have. Well, I'm sure I would be worried still, because that's
Yeah.
something. Once you have had it, you're like, oh,
Always worried after.
yeah,
It's
exactly. You are. And the truth is that again, you get prepared and then you move on. You're like, okay, I'm prepared. So,
well, and preparation, everybody, is not just financial, of course. It's emotionally and physically. It's with amongst your family. It's everything. It's
yeah.
prepared is everything. I don't think any of us want to die. Well, not very many of us, anyways. There are some, I'm sure, that do. But, when somebody finds something like that, it's so darn scary. And stage 4, to hear that is even worse. What kind of people did you treat when you were a doctor, and you are a doctor? But who did you treat mostly in the diseases? Was there more of one than the other in rheumatology? Was it like Parkinson's or
No, no, no. So
anything?
yeah. So in rheumatology, we take care of patients who have systemic, so all over disease, but mostly have joint involvement. So it's going to be rheumatoid arthritis, which is a chronic arthritis, which causes inflammation and causes deformity of the joint. Can also affect the heart, can also affect the lungs, the eyes, and the skin. So that's one of the specialty that I have, rheumatoid arthritis. But I also treat scleroderma, which affects the skin, affects the lungs, the heart, the vessels, gout, which you probably know because it's so common.
Yeah.
And those are like some of the ones like spondylarthropathy, ankylosing spondylitis, lupus. But I call like to explain what a rheumatologist is. I explain, I'm like, oh, it's Dr. House without the attitude or different type of attitude.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because you've gotten cancer, but you treat
Yeah.
people. So, like you said, it gave you a whole different outlook. All of a sudden, it was like a light bulb went on. So,
Yes.
how do you think you're going to look at people differently now?
I've started. So I don't know that it's people that I look at differently. I think it's diseases that I look at differently. And it's a very powerful because instead of being very technical, okay, what do you have, like Google Doc, right, like Google doctor, and be like,
Yeah.
okay, what do you have? Okay, you have joint pain here, you have how many morning stiffness, how long is your morning stiffness, and what other complications do you, like, what other symptoms, and you're like, okay, how are you doing? And then I at least I try to understand what's going on in the life of my patients, and like what's going on, what trauma they have had, and where are they with the disease, like are they okay with it, in the sense of like can they learn from it, or are they feeling guilty that they have this disease, or are they feeling like their body is abandoning them? And so work towards all of this, uh, um, like a holistic view of the person, and where you're basically saying, well, this is all you, including this disease, this condition. Really, I like condition more than disease, but um, um, this condition is part of you, and
Yeah.
let's learn from it, right? Like, what can you learn from it? And what's really interesting is that the moment you actually share this and you're like, okay, well, what can you learn from this? It changes the outlook on the disease, right? Like, instead of being like, oh, my body has decided to not work the way I want it anymore, suddenly it's like, okay, what can I learn? So you're in a position where you're opening your hands again, right? Instead of being like, I'm so upset, I want this thing out of me. You're like, okay,
And you're
what?
crying and you're,
I'm
you
stressed
know,
out and frustrated.
your work has changed, your income probably changed, you're just, everything, you don't
Yeah,
want to go for chemo, you don't, all of that stuff.
yeah, yeah. And I'm talking even rheumatoid arthritis or lupus or usually in rheumatology, our patients do very well. And in general, my patients do very, very well. But I would say it takes more or less time. People who it takes very little time, it's great. They feel great. There's no problem. They have their life back and they're like, yeah, thank you, drugs, and all that.
Yeah.
And there are some patients where it takes a longer time. And those are the patients where that's where I have to work. I like to work at least, like, what's going on, like what's preventing you from tolerating the medicine, and what's preventing you from responding to the medicine. And what's super interesting, it's usually there's something. And I'm not saying, from a scientific perspective, yeah, sure, we think that there is a link between psychological and somatic form, like, the body and the mind over the body, and the body over the mind, I sometimes. But
Yeah.
there's definitely something. But what's really interesting is to see it, play, and to kind of like stop the patient and be like, okay, hold on, like, let's not be angry right now or afraid or stressed out. Like, let's just look at it. Let's look at it and let's stop and let's just think, what is it bringing us? Like, why do you, or like, why, can you think of a why? And can you think of, not why me, not that, but like, what is it bringing me? Like, what can I learn from this? Like, if it's a friend, like, what is this friend bringing me? If I consider that this is a friend and it
Yeah.
is me, what can this bring me? And I think, whether or not this is scientifically proven, it's okay if it's not, I would say, because what it does is that it decreases the stress, and it just opens up, right? It opens you up for the possibilities that you have in front of you. And in rheumatology, it's huge.
Yeah.
Um, in
Especially
oncology,
for arthritis, because
yeah,
it's all, um,
inflammation, yeah.
I find it, painful sadness from people that they're in that,
Hmm.
very much, I guess, like
Yeah,
cancer, really, because you're struggling with the pain, the
yeah,
medicine, and all of that.
yeah. So I think the from my perspective, I feel like the patients with rheumatologic conditions that have pain, if you have chronic pain, you get angry. You get very angry, and no one can blame anyone. If you've ever had chronic pain, you know why you get angry. Because it's just nagging all of the time. You have pain all of the time, and it just gets like, it gets annoying and super annoying, and
You just want to cut it off and throw
yeah.
it away.
Hmm. Hmm. And so, yeah, and so you see, that's what it is. Like, it's, and basically saying, okay, what may you have learned from this?
So it's like a really annoying friend for
Yeah,
a while
absolutely. Yeah.
until you like the friend.
Isn't this Chinese? There's a Chinese proverb that says that if you do not listen to your body when it's whispering, it's gonna have to scream. And I love it because it's like, well, yeah, I mean, listen, let's listen. And Freud says, and I'm not, I don't know a lot about it, but someone recently told me that Freud is this psychologist that basically said, the disease starts from the mind and then takes a life on its own. And for me, like, the way I'm thinking about this now is like, is it possible to kind of like, yeah, so it started in the body and now it has its life on its own, and get back and say, hey, come back, let's go back together, together. so that it doesn't have its life on its own, so that
Yeah.
you can get back where you were supposed to be. And let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
be let's be peaceful here. And sometimes you need medicine to help you, and that's the way I approach it now. It's like medicine are here to help your body. It's not here to attack a disease or beat or no. We're helping your body. Your body needs help, and we're helping you. uh, and then hearing this, it's so much easier to accept a medicine.
Mhm.
Like, right, if I'm going to say, oh, we're going to destroy those cancer cells, versus your body needs help. And I remember thinking exactly that. So because my cancer had HER2 positive, so it's a receptor that's on the cells, I imagined the cells, and 100% of the cells that they had biopsied were having this positive receptor, again, making it very aggressive.
And so that positive
HER2.
is a genetic, so
No,
that listeners know?
no,
No,
that's
it's just that it's there.
it's just a marker on the cell. So you know how this is the cool thing about COVID. People understand now. So you have the COVID and you have that little spike. That's a receptor. And so the same thing, the cancer cells, and then they have this little receptor, HER2, that basically triggered a signal to replicate. And so while this receptor is very causes the cancer to be very aggressive and very replicate very fast, it also is a receptor that we have a treatment for. And
Oh,
so the way I thought about it was like, oh, I have this treatment that's literally going to help my body get rid of those cancer cells, because it's going to go on the receptor and it's going to stop the signal, and it's going to just proof, just tell my cancer cells, hey, stop. You're going crazy here. You don't have to. Relax. And
yeah.
then my body can basically get rid of it, and in a very natural way, which is you take anything that's debris, and whatever does not help you in your body does not gets you get rid of. Everyone has a cancer cell at least somewhere in our body. I can't remember what it is, but like maybe every 10 seconds or something like that. Like it's ridiculous the number of time we have cancer cells, and our body just gets rid of it. And so in this case, in my case, I just saw it as, okay, well, there's this cancer cells, and my body needs help, and we're gonna give it the help. And so seeing it like that, it's not like, oh my gosh, like I'm really hoping this medication is working, like, oh, I need to beat the cancer. And I'm like, no, look, it's gonna be okay. My body needs help. Here it is. It's gonna take this medicine. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Not saying I didn't have some fear. Of course I did, but overall, I was trying to get there, to get to this level of peace, right?
Well, especially with stage 4. I mean,
Yeah.
if that's not a kick in the butt, I don't know what is. So,
Yeah, so maybe for me as a physician, the stage 4 was this wake up call, because I think at stage 3, I was like, oh, 95% remission, totally fine. Like, oh, it's okay. Stage 4, you're like, holy cow, you have my attention now. But I would say, everyone is different, and what for me really needed my attention, so stage 4 needed my attention. I'm pretty sure some people have stage 1, and that opens their eyes. So for me, I like, not that I needed that, but like it was stage 4 that opened my eyes. But I think any stages, really, anyone. Yeah. Yeah.
I was just trying to think of what to ask you because, well, how did your partner feel? I mean, we were talking about how you felt, but
Mm.
this encompasses your family too. So,
So this was a very painful moment of my life, because I was realizing that my partner and I did not go we couldn't continue like that. So we had been for a long time together, and I didn't feel loved. Not that I wasn't, I just didn't feel it. And that was enough for me to be like, no, I don't want this forever. He was extremely supportive, but supportive in a way that still didn't work for me. I cannot imagine what he went through, because I was rejecting him. And I remember,
and you'd been with them for a while?
yeah, we had been together for more than for 14 years or something like this.
Oh, that's a long time.
And so he's a wonderful human being, and a wonderful dad to the kids, and an incredible doctor. So I have nothing other than respect for him. I think it was extremely painful for him. I'm not him. I don't know how he felt. What for sure is that I think one day he said, "You're either leaving me," because no, I told him that I was so angry at him, um, not because of the cancer, but like before. And I remember telling him something awful, which is like, "I'm either leaving you or I'm dying. So like either way, I'm leaving you."
Oh,
It's
gee, that's quite
That's
profound.
awful to say that, awful, but that's how I felt. And
Yeah.
gosh, I mean, I was lucky, and he's really a remarkable man that he stayed during the whole time that I was with him. I did all my chemo. I was still with him, and then I left him, and then I did my radiation therapy on my own and surgery on my own. Uh, but yeah,
That's a lot too. That's incredible. That's a lot of courage right there.
well, yeah, I still feel a little guilty about my ex-husband, because he is a wonderful human being. But that's why it was so hard. I kept telling
Yeah.
my friends, I was like, if he had beaten me, it would have been easier to leave him. But it was super hard to leave someone that was a good person, like such a good person. But I just it didn't work for me, and it
I
was
find that I don't know if it's called anything, maybe you know, but when you've actually gone through something so traumatic that it sometimes brings up,
yeah.
why am I with this person?
So
Where am
yeah,
I going? What am I doing? All of
you
that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Am I happy?
you define your priorities, and yeah. Like I think that's again, I think that the backup plan that you have is wonderful, because it's making you think, all right, what is important to me? All right, yes, let's deal with all the administrative stuff, like deal with
Yeah.
all the financial stuff, and then start thinking, okay, what's important for me? And for me, I just realized that relationship was the most important thing, and love and be loved was what I wanted.
Right.
So I wanted to love, and I wanted to be loved, and I did not feel loved. And
Because you needed that support. You needed that
yeah,
feeling of support in that way.
exactly. And again, this is really important, that it's not because he did not love me. I do not know that he did not
Yeah,
love
yeah.
me. It was that I did not feel it. And yeah, it makes you, like, again, like the same thing with jobs and with people who decide, to change their friends, and like pick up an instrument, or like do things that they have not done yet, because suddenly they're like, hold on, like I actually only have one go at this life, I don't have nine. And just be like, okay, what can I, like, it's allowing me to choose something else. And there's nothing better than a cancer to say no. And at that time, I said no, for the relationship I had. I was like, nope. I also started like feeling less guilty about being a bad mom to my kids, because I was like, hold on,
Right.
what is very important, like what is important,
But
what
you
is
were
important.
looking at the relationships, all of them, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
You and
Yeah.
them. And
Yeah.
isn't that
And
interesting how that brings that up?
it does.
I
I
mean,
mean, it's
some
different.
partners I've seen, and I've had clients that have had this where one spouse gets cancer and the other one runs as fast as to the hills as they can go.
Yeah, and it's interesting. There were some of my, you know, actually, I think I was very lucky. None of my friends left. I also feel that what they saw was someone that was like, that was full of energy, and so that, like one of the things that was very important for me was that I did not want to be looked at in a sad way. So I did not want to see the look of despair or sadness or pity in anyone's eyes, because I knew it would reflect on me, and that I would, wear down because of it.
Mhm.
And so my friends did not see this. So no one really escaped. However, I will say that there are probably people who did not reach out like some others did.
Right.
And that's totally fine. That is
Well,
totally,
it is fine because you don't know, they don't know how to.
and
It's
that's
a,
exactly
it's like a death. It's grief of they don't know
exactly.
what to say or do. Right. So
And yeah, and I was, I completely understood it because I was like, well, everyone, it affects everyone differently. So for someone seeing you with, I had a, I had a friend who had lost his dad of cancer. So of course he didn't know how to, like it just brought back out of this and this risk of death, right? You don't want to relieve that,
no.
and I completely understand it, and I don't love him less for that. Um, and as for partners that are leaving, yeah, it's very interesting because my partner at the time did not leave me, and he could have, and he did not. Yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy what comes up. And I'm sure our listeners who have had cancer or are struggling with it can really resonate with any
Mhm.
of those, because I think you look at yourself and you're looking at your relationships and saying, what lesson
Yeah,
can I learn? And I want a better relationship. This is what I want
yeah,
it
that's
to
exactly.
look like, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that everyone does this. I would say that it's very powerful to do it, because when you're looking and you're doing like coaching and all this, and you're like, okay, what do I want for my life? Like, I mean, I had gone through midlife crisis, and I was like, what do I want for my life? But the cancer really made it raw. Like, what is really the value of life? Like, why am I here? What is the most important thing for me? And relationship, love. That's what, like, research was not anymore. Like, not that I don't believe in research. I totally
Yeah.
believe in research. And I would love to continue. I mean, I am actually involved in research nowadays. But it is not anymore because I want my name to be first author or second author or whatever. Like, it's not because of my name on a paper. I do not care about this.
Yeah.
What I care about is the real meaning of that study. Whereas before, I want to say that mostly I was driven by, I want my name on this paper, not 100%, but it was a big percentage. Now, like this, I mean, yeah, it makes me feel good, like 1%. What really makes me feel good is, can I help my patients with this research? And that is
Yes.
why I'm not like, and also the other reason I pursued more clinical now is that I continue to be a doctor during my cancer journey, and it helped me. It
Oh,
helped me. Yeah, seeing patient, like being in the story of someone else, allowed me to not think of me and feel sad about me and be like, okay, well, I need to help my patients here. Like, it's not about me; it is about them right now. Like this 1 hour, this half an hour, this is about them, not me. And I used, I have this wonderful relationship with my patients. So I love them. And I just thought, that's a relationship that I don't want to miss that. Like, I would miss taking care of patients, and I don't want that. I love patients.
yeah.
So it was this realization also of, yeah, I mean, this is important to me. I want to be a doctor.
I guess it's that relationship part again that you
Yeah.
want to have them keep coming back to you,
Yeah.
getting better. That's your goal and your passion now, how it's shifted. Isn't that
Yes.
funny what it does to us? It's quite amazing actually to be given this lesson of life and for you to embrace that and help others through this power that you've been given. It's like a magical power.
Yeah. It's very powerful. I agree with you. I think that, when you ask me, do you regret not having that mammogram? I'm like, oh, do I? Do I? I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult to say that I regret it because, like, look at how much I bring now. And, just for me, I'm such a happier person now than I was before. And I'm much more true to who I really am deeply.
Yeah.
And I did not even know who I was before. Now I think I know. Now I think I could not necessarily explain it, but I think I know what my values are. And I did not know what my values were.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's very powerful to being able to share this with other people. To
Yes, it
share,
sure is.
to be like, yeah, it's scary. It is scary, but in rheumatology we have amazing treatments. So that's number one. So it's less scary. But even for those who are scared, I'm like, well, it is scary, and there's so much hope. Uh, yeah, so it is powerful.
It is, because you can help so many more people in a way different way now.
Yes.
Just even if once they start telling you that they're having a hard time with lupus or whatever, and I mean,
Yeah.
nobody likes to hear that they have some sort of disease. I mean, none of us.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's very interesting. I've had multiple patients now. I use this example often. I had this patient that had rheumatoid arthritis for many, many years, and she was young, and basically had not wanted to get on treatment. So the doctors that can, like, she had seen multiple doctors that you could make out that the doctors had given up on her, and so she had destroyed joints and so on. And I saw her and I was like, I need you to believe that I can get you better, because otherwise there's no point. And I was like, you just need to give me one trial, one trial. Like, I have the treatment for you. I know, I think it will work, and let's try it. And before the end of the visit, I also asked her. I was like, can you think of anything that this disease has brought to you? Like, is there anything that's positive from having this disease? Fast forward, she does much better. She actually accepts this treatment, and she's blowing away everyone, right? Because she's in full remission and she's doing so well. And she came back and she's like, I actually thought of what you told me, and yeah, this did bring me a lot. I started, traveling. I started doing the work I'm doing, and so on. And in my mind, I thought, because she acknowledged what the RA had brought to her,
Yeah.
she was able to let it go and to accept the treatment. So again, it's not like, oh, this is woo woo. Look, it's because she accepted the what it had brought. It's more, in my opinion, and I'm not a psychologist, but in my opinion, right? Like, how powerful is it to say, okay, this has brought me this, but I'm still going to still keep this. Now I can actually allow myself to be free of symptoms because I have acknowledged what this has brought to me. And let's take the medicine to get better.
It's kind of like what is that called when you not give up, but give to it, I
Your
guess.
promise, yeah.
Yeah, you're grateful for it. You've turned it around and you've forgiven it and you've been grateful, and
Yes.
so it becomes something in a positive outlook,
Yeah.
I guess. And
Yeah. I mean, in this case, I think what's, as a scientist, first and foremost, for me, it's like, okay, she had a way to finally say, I'm going to take this treatment. Because why is it that 10 years or 15 years, I can't remember the number, for 15 years, she's not agreeing on any treatment, or all the treatment has side effects or so on. And then there's this one treatment that works,
yeah,
And
yeah,
the difference was the
an
acknowledgement.
attitude.
Yeah. And the acknowledgement of what it had brought to her.
Because it is hard. I'm sure most of our listeners out there that would agree with me, that you've gone to different doctors and you've tried this and you've tried that. I've heard lots of people, oh, this didn't work, and oh, that I stopped taking that because that
Yeah.
did nothing, and I didn't feel anything, and nothing changed. Like, it's just all yuckiness.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's exactly the type of patients that I mean, you have to really go deeply into you and be like, okay, why, what can I learn from this? is there anything that I need to learn from my body? Um, I mean, it's almost spiritual in a way, right?
Yes.
What, like, it's bringing the body as something higher than our mind. Um, but the truth is that the body is talking at that point, and unfortunately, it has something to say because we are not accepting treatment. So it has something to say. And again, I'm not saying that this is 100%. I'm just saying right now, if you can just think of it like that, just what if this is 1% true, right? Like, what if there
Yeah.
is a 1% chance that this is true? Like, it's worth looking at it like that, because it actually really could potentially change treatment for you, right?
Right.
And change the outlook. Instead of being sad about my own condition, having stage 4 cancer, when the cancer was still on, I felt hopeful, and I felt like, okay, what am I learning? Okay, so I was like reading a ton, and doing a ton of meditation, and like, the outlook is so different that you're not in this stressful position. You're not in the what we call the sympathetic system versus the parasympathetic system. So adrenergic, flight and flight. I wasn't flight and flight. I
Yeah.
was I was in this very relaxed, most of the time, at least. Not all the time, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, I had fears, and I had moments of doubts and so on. But mostly, I was trying to get into the space of, understanding and peacefulness, and
Yeah. Um, I think it's interesting as well because if we could look at it like you suggested, like a cold, like you would if you had a cold and you wanted to go to work and you liked your job, what do you do when you have a cold? You don't fight it really because
yes,
it's just a cold.
yeah,
So you go with it and just say, okay, well, I'll try and just, you have self care and you do self love and you take some time to sleep or take medication or whatever it is to get better so that you can be better tomorrow, and go to work or do what those things that you want to do. So it's kind of the same. Like you're looking at how can I get around working with what I've got?
yeah. That's true. I never put it together, but you're absolutely correct. I think that's when you have a cold, you're not upset at your body for catching a cold most of the time. Of
No,
course,
no.
you might be upset at the person who gave it to you, but you're like, well, no, I caught it. I didn't know. But then otherwise, you have to be self-care. Yeah, that's exactly right. You do a lot of self-care. Yeah.
Yeah, like whatever that looks like, whether, like you said, you're doing meditations or you're sleeping more or you're
Right.
exercising or whatever that is that you feel like your body needs.
Yes,
Animals do it all the time.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
And we just are not that in touch with ourselves as the animals are.
Yeah, that's because we have our mind. We have a very powerful brain.
Yeah, that's for sure.
in
Too
order
much.
Yeah, sometimes too much. I think so. I think sometimes you have to calm it down and be like, okay, shh. So
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to leave because I love your story. Well, and I love all the insights that you're able to give all our listeners. I really think it's powerful. There's so many people in this world struggling with this right now. Any stage of cancer. It's I wish we could help that part as well, and not have it strike so many people. If I could put anything good out there in magic, is to not have everybody be hit by this disease. But it's nice to know that you can have a different outlook, like you suggest. And what kinds of things can you do for getting that attitude? What meditation you mentioned?
mhm.
What about dance or music or anything
Oh,
like
yeah,
that?
absolutely. Do something that you love. Um, I can only speak about my own experience and the experience of what I've seen with my patients and some friends and so on. I would say just be open minded, which is don't fight it. Don't fight it because it's not going to help. I mean, in the sense, sorry, when I say don't fight it, don't fight the diagnosis term. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, what matters is how do you feel at that moment, right? And yeah, just being kind to your body, being kind to yourself. I think the most important thing is to start to love yourself, and it's really hard when you have a diagnosis like this because sometimes you're like, oh, this is my body. I created this, right?
Yeah.
My body created this, and oh, I'm less than nothing. I'm not enough. This is the proof that I should not be here. No, no, no. This is the proof that maybe you need to think that there's no proof actually, but what can you learn? What can you learn from this? What is it bringing you in terms of possibilities that are positive? And
Yeah.
and what can you be grateful for, like in there, everyone has something that they can be grateful for. I have not had one patient that did not bring at least one thing that they were grateful for.
And
Not,
those diseases aren't easy either.
no, nothing, like it's simple. Like usually you want to use your body and don't hear. And Claude Bernard is was a French doctor, and he would define the health as the absence of, like, the body not talking to you. Basically, like, the body is silent. Health is when the body is silent, right? And well, if the body is talking, listen, right? And so I think a way to approach it this way for me was to have hope. So I had hope that this would go away. I had hope that I would get cured. I had hope that the medicine were very powerful, and I had hope that I would respond to the medicine. And so I came from that side, which is like, I'm going to be hopeful for the best outcome, and I'm going to acknowledge the fact that there may be, death down the road, but I'm going and where I'm going to focus is the good that this situation is bringing me. I'm going to focus on that with acknowledgement. Once I had acknowledged that there is a risk, I'm like, okay, this is acknowledged. Now I'm going to put this aside, and my attention is going to be on the good. And so meditation helped me. Visualization, super powerful visualization. Visualizing yourself healthy, visualizing responding to treatment, that is extremely powerful, even if it's just psychological, right?
And meditation helps you do that, I guess, too.
So yeah, I would do meditation and then visualization, and then I would do affirmation. So affirmation were great when I was afraid, because then I would just like affirm it like over and over and over again. I think I feel vibrantly healthy and alive. And the truth is that at that moment, I felt vibrantly healthy and alive. I was just afraid. Right? I feel vibrantly healthy and alive.
To try and wipe that fear away.
Yes.
Like, go away.
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't go away, but it was like, don't overwhelm me. Stay next to me, but do not overwhelm me. Stay next to me. I acknowledge you. You're here. Let's put you on the side. And I still do this sometimes, when you have the repeat scans and all this, like I have to acknowledge the fear and be like, it's much harder, but I try. And then
the fear is so overwhelming.
It is.
Jeez,
it is. Especially when you want to, when you want to not look at it, when you're like, no, I don't want to think of this. I don't want to think of this. And then ultimately it overwhelms you. So you just have to acknowledge it, because it's going to overwhelm.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't overwhelm you in real life, it's going to overwhelm you through, waking you up in the middle of the night. I mean, you have to acknowledge it. I know no one, I'm sure it exists because all exceptions, right? But I know no one that really can put fear completely aside. They have to acknowledge it. Yeah. So that's helped. And then surround yourself with love.
Support and love.
Support, love. And sometimes it doesn't have to be a lot of people. It can be just one person or two. Sometimes it's animals. It doesn't even have to be human beings. And then, do things that you love. So it's, for me, I love rock climbing. So I was rock climbing a lot. And then, just music. I love music. So I started also dancing, with my kids and doing things that I loved. And I still continue to do those things that I love. So that
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. It just changes your whole life.
yeah, it changes your biology. It changes
Yeah.
how you are. Yeah, absolutely. Mhm.
Yeah, that's incredible. Wow, I just love your energy and I don't want to end, but it's getting to be that time. What kind of final message would you like to give the listeners?
Yeah, thank you for asking this. So I'm a very optimistic person because I'm a physician, all right? And so I've seen literally things that could have been considered miracles 50 years ago that are not miracles, that are just science and the acknowledgement that there is mind-body connection. And so I think that if I have one thing to share that's the most important to me is to be hopeful, to understand that there is hope in absolutely every single situation, um, and not be caught up on the outcome necessarily, but be hopeful on the pathway, and surround yourself with people who are as hopeful as you want them to be. So if your doctors are not hopeful, maybe change doctors. There's no point of staying with them. It doesn't mean that they are bad. It just means that they are don't work
Not
for
for
you.
you. Yeah.
Exactly. So just surround yourself with hope, because there is nothing more powerful than hope. And so if there is one way to beat stage 4 cancer, is to be hopeful. It's not beating, it's really just surrounding the cancer word with so much hope that it's just a word. It's just a word, and there's no meaning behind it anymore. And it's
And
just
I think that's for the food that you eat and the exercise that you do and the change in your life and your just your whole aspect of positivity and the food that you're taking in as positive and you just you've changed your life and how can it stay there,
yeah,
when it's surrounded with all this love, I think is
yeah,
really
yeah. Plus the help
both
of
inside and outside, right?
yeah, and plus the help of medicine. Yeah, and again, yeah, the medicine of 2022 is just so powerful. It's I mean, we saw it with the pandemic. I know that people are upset, and I understand that. We wish it had been faster, but man, was it fast. From my perspective, I'm like, wow, you like when we have a patient with COVID-19 now, it's not the same story than at the beginning.
No,
So
that's for sure.
really it was fast. So again,
Do you
hope.
think it will help with cancers? Do you think that psychology or the science around
Oh my
COVID
gosh, yes,
is
absolutely. I think that every single scientific advances in every single area helps another area. And so, yeah, the mRN, this technology is probably going to revolutionize cancer treatment, yeah, and other treatments. So I'm super hopeful and excited for what's to come because the way I practice medicine nowadays is different than the way it used to be like when I started in 1997. uh, and and it just keeps getting better and better and better. It's just remarkable. I mean, I love being a doctor for that reason because I mean, I mean, I can just bring hope to every single patient that I see. I mean, it's just a different body game than 20 years ago.
that's for
Um,
sure.
yeah, so
I
much
mean,
hope.
ovarian and colon cancer are probably one of those hidden ones that are so hard to detect, but it sounds like we're going to maybe evolutionize
Yeah.
the kind of treatments we're going to be able to give cancer
Yeah.
patients.
So colon cancer can be pretty diagnosed with colonoscopy, and we're just asking people to get them a little earlier than we used to. So there's
Yeah.
there too. And ovarian cancer, I think we're learning a lot as we speak. So it's a difference. But yeah, we are still learning a lot. There's still a lot to learn. So yeah, be hopeful. Be hopeful. There's so much hope.
And the exciting thing sometimes I find that somebody gets sick with something else that they find the cancer because of. So it's like a gift.
Hmm.
It's like the
Oh yeah,
universe
yeah,
gave you
yeah,
a gift to
yeah.
spot it.
Who was that? I think I had a colleague that had a patient with joint pain, and she did a X-ray of the shoulder and picked up a cancer on the X-ray. So yeah, absolutely, we do find things like this, and it's like it allows us to find them earlier.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, so it's just
That's
a different mindset. Mindset. it doesn't mean that it's not hard. It doesn't mean that it's not hard. It is hard, but there is something to learn, and I think it's better. For me at least, it's nicer and kinder to focus on the fact that there is something to learn rather than feeling sorry for myself.
Well, that's for sure. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, because what good is that giving you?
Mhm.
But it's easy to fall into that, though. I mean,
Yeah.
it's easy to give in to
Mhm.
that moment. And I guess you have to have self-care and love to give yourself some time to get rid of that fear and inside of sadness out of you. I guess you have to do that as well, I
Mhm.
imagine. You
Mhm.
can't bottle it all up.
Yeah. Oh,
I guess that's not going to help you.
no, for sure.
So, yeah, there's a fine line of working with it, right? To go with the flow, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Go with the flow and be well surrounded. I think that choosing your team is very important. I always tell my patients that they are the most important team member of a team, and so they need their coaches, they need their players, and the most important team member is them.
Yeah. Medical staff and the friend that you can call
Right?
at any time and that,
So,
all of that sort of stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's lovely. Well, thank you. I can't say enough about how helpful this is for people out there struggling right now. And I'm so appreciative to have you come on the show and talk about this inside scoop of the inner workings of struggling with this cancer. And I think you don't have to struggle with it
Mhm.
after talking to you. It's not a struggle anymore. It's something you can work around, I guess, so to speak.
Mhm.
So that's lovely. Well, thank you. And I don't want it to end because I could talk to you forever. But please take a moment and, subscribe to our channel and click on that bell, and I'll get my hand out again right down here and subscribe. Don't forget, if you would like to see more of and hear more of our great stories, and stay tuned for our podcast and live streams. I have great conversations with some of the most interesting and accomplished people in the world today, like Dr. Isabelle here, who can only give us this great information. It's unbelievable. I'm so appreciative to have you on the show. So thank you. And remember, nobody's Superman. So expect the unexpected. And if you are thinking about that someone special right now watching the show, and you haven't talked to them in a while, please reach out to them, call them. We still have phones. Zoom them, FaceTime them, knock on their door and tell them how much you love and care about them today, because you don't know what tomorrow might bring. Thank you again to all our listeners. We are on all podcast platforms: YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. Gosh, that's a mouthful every time I say that. So thank you for taking this time and sharing with you. I love each and every one of you. I don't know, Isabelle, if you know who Carol Burnett is. Did you ever see the Carol Burnett show? I don't know if it was ever in France and Germany, so I'm not sure, but she's wide. I think she's actually from Colorado somewhere, I think.
Okay.
But anyways, she had a TV show, and she's a comedian. And I always end with Carol Burnett. So I'm so glad we had this time together just to have a laugh or sing a song. Seems we just get started, and before you know it, comes a time we have to say so long. So long, everybody. Stay safe, be kind, expect the unexpected. And thank you, Dr. Isabelle, for coming on our show today.
And thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. I'd love to have you come back and give us maybe some more insight of working with diseases, and that would be really, really exciting, I'm sure, for our listeners. So thank you. And all of Isabelle's information is down in the description box below. Please reach out to her if you have any questions, or reach out to me. I'd love to speak to you. Thank you, all our listeners. Thank you. Till next time.
Oh.